Class 11th, Subject Physics, 14th chapter, Semiconductors. Let us see the introduction of this chapter. Conductors such as metals have very high conductivity, whereas the insulators or bad conductors have very low electrical conductivity. That is, the electrical conductivity of the metals, that is conductors, is very high, and electrical conductivity of the insulators or bad conductors is very low or almost zero. The semiconductors are having their electrical conductivity between conductors and the insulators. So as the conductors are having their electrical conductivity very high, and the insulators or bad conductors are having their conductivity very low, therefore there is third category of the materials whose conductivity lies between that of conductors and the insulators. These materials are called as semiconductors. Now let us see the electrical conduction in solids. How the electrical conduction takes place in solids. The electrical conductivity in a solid takes place by the transport of charge carriers. So due to the transfer of charge carriers, the electrical conductivity takes place in case of solids. It depends upon the temperature, number of charge carriers moving easily inside the solid, its crystal structure, type and nature of the defects present in solid. So electrical conductivity will depend upon the temperature, number of charge carriers moving easily inside the solid, the crystal structure, type and nature of the defects present in the solid, and the electrical conductivity classifies the solids as conductors, insulators, and semiconductors. So the materials are classified into these three categories depending upon their electrical conductivity. So let us see first the conductors. Now what are these conductors? So conductors have a large number of electrons available for conduction. These electrons are called as the free electrons. Metals are generally good conductors of electricity due to large number of free electrons present in them. Then second category is insulators. Now what are these insulators? So insulators have very small number of free electrons, and therefore their electrical conductivity will be very low. Similarly, third category of the materials is semiconductors, and therefore the semiconductors, if you consider the semiconductors, then the number of charge carriers in semiconductors can be controlled as per our requirement, and the number of free electrons present in the semiconductors will be few in number. When the temperature of a semiconductor is increased, its electrical conductivity also increases. When the temperature of a semiconductor is increased, its electrical conductivity increases. On the other hand, the electrical conductivity of the conductors, that is metals, decreases with increase in its temperature. The electrical conductivity of the metals, that is conductors, decreases with increase in its temperature. Now let us see some of the examples of conductors like copper, aluminum, etc. These will act as the conductors. Glass, wood, rubber, etc. will act as insulators. Germanium, silicon, gallium arsenide, etc. These materials will act as the semiconductors. Now, if you consider the effect of temperature on the metals and the semiconductors, then it will be as shown. Let us see first the effect of temperature on the electrical conductivity of the metals. So, for low temperature, the electrical conductivity of the metals will be large. As temperature increases for these metals, then there will be decrease in the conductivity, but there will be no linear decrease in the conductivity. So in case of metals, as temperature of the metals increases, the conductivity decreases. On the other hand, in case of semiconductors, for low temperatures, the conductivity will be small. As temperature increases, the conductivity goes on increasing. Again, there will be no linear variation in conductivity of the semiconductors. So in case of metals, conductivity decreases. In case of semiconductors, the conductivity increases as there is increase in temperature. And now let us see the types of semiconductors. That is, there are three different types of the semiconductors, and therefore let us see these three different types of semiconductors. That is, elemental semiconductors, compound semiconductors, and organic semiconductors. Elemental semiconductors, compound semiconductors, and organic semiconductors. Let us see these types one by one. So first one, that is elemental semiconductors. So in case of elemental semiconductors, silicon, germanium, etc. will lie. So silicon, germanium will be elemental semiconductors. Similarly, cadmium sulfide, zinc sulfide, etc. these materials will be compound semiconductors. Then anthracene doped phthalocyanines, anthracene doped phthalocyanines. Similarly, polyaniline, etc. these are the organic semiconductors. So these materials, all these materials will be these semiconductors, which are classified into three different groups, that is elemental semiconductors, compound semiconductors, and organic semiconductors. They are the fourth group elements in the periodic table. They have valency of 4. These elements, that is semiconductors, are having their valency equal to 4. That is, only 4 unpaired electrons will be present in the outermost shell of its atom. Then the atoms are bounded by the covalent bonds. So as only 4 electrons are there in the outermost orbit of these elements, therefore in order to become stable, again 4 extra electrons are needed, and therefore there will be sharing of electrons between their neighboring atoms, so that they will be bounded by the forming covalent bonds. So due to the formation of covalent bonds, these materials will become stable. At the absolute zero temperature, all the covalent bonds are completely satisfied in a single crystal of pure germanium or silicon. At the absolute zero temperature, all the covalent bonds are completely satisfied or completely filled or bound in a single crystal of pure germanium or silicon atom, and therefore at absolute zero temperature germanium or silicon will act as insulator instead of the semiconductor. For higher temperatures, some of the electrons will become free for the conduction and therefore they will act as the semiconductors. Now let us see band theory of solids. Band theory of solids. When a solid is formed, a large number of atoms are packed in it. When a solid is formed, a large number of atoms are packed in it. An isolated atom has its nucleus at the center, which is surrounded by the number of revolving electrons. These electrons are arranged in different and discrete energy levels. These electrons around the nucleus are arranged in different and discrete energy levels. The electronic configuration of sodium. If you consider the sodium atom, then its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. In case of sodium, its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. So in this diagram it is represented for this. Here it will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1, so that this 1s, 2s and 2p, all these are completely filled bonds. So these energy levels are completely filled here, and this will be half filled, that is partly filled, that is 3s level in case of this sodium. So like this energy levels will be there present, and the electronic configuration of sodium will be as shown. The outermost level 3s can take one more electron, but it is half filled in sodium. So in order to become stable, as there is 3s outermost orbit, it will be having only one electron because it is 3s1. Therefore, in order to become stable, the duplet must be completed, that is one more electron must be needed there, and therefore we can say that an isolated atom has its nucleus at the center, which is surrounded by number of revolving electrons. These electrons are arranged in different and discrete energy levels, and therefore the outermost level 3s can take one more electron, but it is half filled in sodium. When solid sodium is formed, when that solid sodium is formed, atoms will interact with each other through the electrons in each atom. In case of sodium, when sodium is formed, that is solid sodium is formed, atoms will interact with each other through the electrons in each atom. Then the energy levels are filled according to Pauli's exclusion principle. The energy levels will be filled according to Pauli's exclusion principle, that is, no two electrons can have the same set of quantum numbers. No two electrons can have the same set of quantum numbers. An energy level can accommodate only two electrons. An energy level can accommodate, it will contain only two electrons. Now when the solid sodium is formed, the atoms come close to each other, and therefore the electrons from different atoms interact with each other and also with the neighboring atom cores. So when solid sodium is formed, the atoms of the sodium will come close to each other, and therefore the electrons from different atoms will interact with each other and also with the neighboring atom cores. For sodium atom, the topmost occupied energy level is 3s level. So topmost level, energy level is 3s level, and this level, the topmost level, is called as valence level. So this level will be called as the valence level, and the corresponding energy band is called as valence band. Therefore this band will represent the valence band. So the band diagram for this is as shown. It is for sodium. Now when sufficient energy is supplied to the electrons from the valence band, they are raised to the higher levels. When sufficient amount of energy is received by these electrons which are present in the valence band, they will be shifted up, they will raise up, and therefore the next energy level that electrons from valence band can occupy is called as conduction level. So next to this valence level there will be conduction level, in which the conduction electrons will be present. In metals, conduction and valence bands overlap. So in case of, so here in this case, here there is valence band which will contain valence electrons. When energy is gained by these electrons will be raised to the conduction level, that is, it will form conduction band, and then there will be a small energy gap between valence band and conduction band, which is called as the energy gap or Fermi energy gap. So between valence band and conduction band, the energy gap will be produced, and that energy gap is the Fermi energy gap. Now if you consider the metals, then in case of metals, the valence band and conduction band will not be separated, but there will be overlapping between the valence band and conduction band. That is, the energy gap between the valence band and conduction band will be equal to 0 in case of metals, and that's why when small amount of energy is supplied to the valence electrons, they will easily get shifted to the conduction band, as there is overlapping between the conduction band and the valence band. And therefore in case of metals, conduction band and valence band overlap each other. On the other hand, in case of a semiconductor, in case of the semiconductors, there will be a small gap, energy gap, between the conduction band and the valence band. So if you consider here these semiconductors, this will be the valence band, this will be the conduction band. Between valence band and conduction band there will be small energy gap, and this energy gap is called as Fermi energy gap, and therefore in order to raise electrons from valence band to conduction band, some finite value of energy must be given to the electrons which are present in the valence band. So there will be a small gap, small Fermi energy gap between valence band and conduction band. On the other hand, in case of the insulators, valence band and conduction band will be now separated by a large gap. There will be large gap between valence band and the conduction band in case of the insulators, and therefore very high energy will be required to send the electrons from valence band to conduction band, and hence these materials will act as insulators. That is, conduction is impossible in case of insulators. So when small amount of energy is supplied to these valence electrons in case of semiconductors, they will be sent to conduction band, and hence conduction will be possible. Here there will be easily conduction will take place. And then in metals there is no band gap. From this we can say that in case of metals there is no any Fermi energy gap or no band gap. The electrons, in case of these solids, the electrons therefore find it easy to gain electrical energy. As there is no energy gap, these electrons will find it easy to gain the electrical energy. When some external electric field is applied, then they are easily available for the conduction. So in case of metals, some electrical field is applied across that metal, then conduction will easily take place. But in case of semiconductors, the band gap energy is very small, of the order of 1 electron volt or less than it. So this band gap in case of semiconductors is nearly equal to 1 electron volt or less than 1 electron volt, and therefore when excited electrons gain energy and occupy energy levels in the conduction band easily and can take part in the electric conduction. In case of insulators, a wide band gap is there between conduction band and valence band. The electrons find it very difficult to gain sufficient energy and occupy energy levels in the conduction band. The magnitude of the band gap plays a very important role in electric properties of the solids. So this band gap is very important in order to explain the electric properties of the solids. And now this 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 joule, that is the energy. So 1 electron volt is the energy gained by an electron when it overcomes a potential difference of 1 volt. 1 electron volt is the energy acquired by an electron when it overcomes a potential difference of 1 volt, and therefore 1 electron volt equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 joule, that is the energy equal to 1 electron volt.